The humid afternoon air in the small city of Peterborough, Ontario, felt stifling. Exhaust fumes from city buses mingled with the smell of fries from a chip truck parked by the roadside. Among the bustle, Maya, a 17-year-old high school student, rode slowly on her faded pink moped, its small engine putting along. Her white helmet was slightly loose, and her casual clothes, jeans and a t-shirt, were neat, though damp with sweat. She was just heading home from school after a student council meeting. In the basket of her moped was a folder with a proposal for the school's Canada Day fundraiser. Maya was known as an active and polite student. She had a kind face with a calm gaze. But inwardly, she often felt anxious. Especially since her father had left, or so she'd been told, years ago, and contact had ceased. Her mother, Sarah, worked long hours at a small diner near the bus depot. Every day, Maya got to school on her own. Sometimes, if the diner had a good day, her mother would slip her a little extra cash for gas. Their life was modest. But Maya never complained. That afternoon, as she stopped at a red light near the Peterborough Farmers Market, she suddenly heard a sharp whistle. "Hey, you! Pull over to the curb." A police officer in full uniform stood by the road. He was a large man with a rigid face, and the name tag on his chest read Constable Davies. Maya pulled over, her heart pounding. She killed the engine and pulled up her visor. "Is something wrong, officer?" she asked politely. "Do you know why I stopped you?" His voice was heavy, authoritative, but with a bullying tone. I don't know, sir. Did I do something wrong?" Constable Davies looked her up and down, then said coldly, "You made that last turn without signaling. And your helmet isn't properly secured. That's a violation." Maya looked at her helmet strap. It was a bit loose. "Oh, I'm sorry, officer. I'll fix it right now." "It's not just about sorry. I should be writing you a ticket," he said quickly, pulling a ticket book from his pouch. Maya panicked. She knew she didn't have much money on her. Only about $20 in her wallet. "But sir, I'm just on my way home. I'm just a student." "Everyone says that." "You think I don't know?" Davies stepped closer. His tone grew harsher. People on the sidewalk started to notice, shoppers from the market, a cab driver, and a few bus passengers waiting at the stop. "Show me your license and registration," he barked. I don't have my M-Class license yet, sir." "I'm taking the test this month," Maya replied in a small voice. "Aha, even better. Driving without a license is a serious offense." He took out his ticket book and clicked his pen. But instead of writing, he glanced at Maya's face and smirked. "Where do you go to school?" "PCVS, sir." "Pretty, aren't they? High school kids today. But always breaking the rules." He huffed while scribbling. "If you don't want a major hassle, we can resolve this right here. You understand what I'm saying?" Maya froze. She knew exactly what that meant. Resolved right here meant money. A bribe. But she had nothing. "I don't have any money, sir. I only have $20 for gas." Constable Davies smiled cynically. $20. You think I'm a joke?" Maya felt like crying but held it back. People were watching but no one dared to speak. This officer had a reputation, aggressive, arrogant, and known for his power trips. Davies then pulled his personal phone from his pocket. He turned on the camera and moved closer. "Fine, if you won't cooperate, I'll just document this violation. Make you famous. Delinquent student, no license, endangering the public." "Don't, sir. Please don't record me," Maya said, her eyes starting to water. "Why?" "Embarrassed. Should have thought of that." I can help you out, if you'd just cooperate. His tone was dangerous. As if pressing her. Maya bit her lip. Her hands were shaking on the moped's handlebars. She looked at the officer. She wanted to be angry, but she was terrified. I didn't do anything wrong, sir. I just want to go home. If you didn't do anything wrong, why aren't you cooperating? He tapped Maya on the shoulder. The touch made her flinch back a step. Don't touch me. Her voice was high, making a few people on the sidewalk turn their heads more sharply. Constable Davies grunted, annoyed. Is that how you talk to an officer? Huh? He grabbed Maya's wrist, hard. The girl winced, trying to pull away. Several bystanders started whispering. Shame, she's just a kid. That's Davies for you. Always a bully. But no one stepped closer. Everyone knew Constable Davies. The traffic cop who ticketed aggressively, sometimes harassed drivers, and supposedly had friends in high places at the station. Maya finally burst into tears. They streamed down her face. Not just from fear, but from humiliation. She felt ashamed, powerless in public. Let go of me, sir. She tried to yank her hand back, but Davies held tighter. If you don't want to cause a scene, come with me to my cruiser. We'll sort this out there, he said, pulling her toward his police car parked on the side street. Maya looked around, desperate for someone to help. But everyone was silent. The world felt incredibly cruel that afternoon. Beside the cruiser, the air was hot. Davies put his ticket book on the roof of the car while Maya stood stiffly by the door. So, how is it? You want to do this officially, or do you want my help to make it go away quickly? I don't understand, sir. I'm just a student, she answered softly. Look, kid. It's simple. You want this to be easy, you give me a little something. I rip up the notes. You're home in 10 minutes. Maya bit her lip. Her hand clutched the $20 bill in her pocket. But she knew if she gave it to him, she would lose her dignity. I won't, sir. I didn't do anything wrong. Constable Davies let out a short, harsh laugh. Stubborn, are you? Fine. We'll see how you feel when this is all over TikTok. He turned on his camera again, pointing it at Maya's face. The girl instinctively covered her face with her hands. Please, sir, don't record me. Why? Scared. This is so everyone knows the face of a lawbreaker. Maya finally broke and ran back toward her moped. But Constable Davies lunged after her, grabbing her backpack and pulling her back so hard she nearly fell. Several people saw it from across the street. One of them, an older man in a construction vest named Mr. Henderson, finally shouted, "Hey, officer. Leave the kid alone. Don't be so rough." Constable Davies turned, his eyes sharp. Who are you? Mind your own business. This isn't your personal business. You're a public servant, not a thug. The atmosphere grew tense. People started to gather. Davies looked nervous for a second, then lowered his hand from Maya's bag. All right, get out of here. Stop causing a scene, he said loudly. Maya immediately started her moped and sped away, tears streaming down her cheeks. But she didn't know that someone in the crowd had recorded the entire incident on their phone. And that video was about to be the start of everything. Later that evening, in their modest apartment in a small building behind the market, Maya entered looking pale and exhausted. Her mother, Sarah, was just finishing her shift, packing up leftover fries for her last customer. Maya, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Maya tried to smile. It's nothing, Mom. Just tired. But her voice trembled. Sarah looked at her suspiciously but didn't push. She knew her daughter wasn't the type to complain. That night, after a shower, Maya sat on the small balcony of their apartment. She stared at the quiet street, holding her phone. On social media, she saw a new video starting to be shared rapidly. Arrogant Peterborough cop harasses high school student in public. And in the video, her face was clearly visible, crying, terrified. Unable to defend herself. Maya went numb. Her body trembled. She covered her mouth, holding back a sob. Comments on the video were flooding in. "This is disgusting. How can a cop act like this? This needs to go to professional standards. That poor girl, but she was brave to speak up." Within hours, the video was viral. Constable Davies's name began to trend. But on the other side, Maya was also overwhelmed by shame. Her friends started texting her, "Is that really you in the video? Oh God," she whispered. "Why did this have to happen to me?" She didn't know. Her fate had just changed. And even more shocking, who she really was, not everyone knew. Not even her mother. In another place, in a large house in a wealthy suburb of Ottawa, a middle-aged man in a dark suit was watching the viral news segment on television. His face was stern, his hair graying at the temples. On the shoulders of his uniform, hanging in his study, was the rank insignia of a brigadier general of the Canadian Armed Forces. The man stared at the screen with sharp eyes, then said softly, "Maya." He called the name with a heavy voice, as if holding back both longing and anger. "So this is what you've been hiding from your father." The night in Peterborough grew cool. Rain began to fall softly, wetting the empty streets. In the modest apartment, Maya still sat in front of her phone. Notifications kept flooding in, making her heart race. "Maya, I saw the video on Twitter. That was you, right? Oh my God, how can a cop be that arrogant? You have to report him, Maya." Her friends kept messaging. Some were concerned, but others were just curious. She didn't reply to any of them. Her mother, Sarah, came out of her room carrying a blanket. "Maya, it's late. Go to bed, honey. Don't keep looking at your phone. This news will blow over by tomorrow." Maya nodded slowly. "Okay, Mom." But in her heart, she knew this wouldn't be easy. Her name and face were everywhere. She didn't want to worry her mother, but the wound in her heart was deepening. Meanwhile, in the grand house on the outskirts of Ottawa, Brigadier General Robert Harrison, the stern-faced man, who had been watching the news, sat in his home office. In front of him, his aide stood at attention. "Sir, the video of the incident in Peterborough is all over the media. The officer involved is Constable Davies of the Peterborough Police Service." The aide hesitated for a moment. "But, sir, the girl in the video. She appears to be Sarah's daughter." General Harrison looked at the photo on the tablet his aide was holding. He was silent for a long time. "Sarah's daughter," he murmured. "So, she's this grown up." The aide looked down, not daring to speak. Harrison stood and looked out the window at the rain. "Prepare the car. I'm going to Peterborough tomorrow morning." The next day at school, the atmosphere was uncomfortable for Maya. As she walked into class, the whispers started immediately. "That's her, the one from the video. I feel bad for her, but I heard her family is poor. Maybe that's why the cop felt he could bully her." Maya tried to keep her head down, but the shame followed her. Her homeroom teacher, Ms. Jenkins, looked at her with pity. After the first period, she called Maya to the staff room. "Maya, I know this is hard for you, but don't be afraid. The school is on your side. If you want to make a formal complaint to the authorities, I'm prepared to support you." Maya shook her head slowly. "I'm scared, Ms. Jenkins. My mom doesn't know anything. I don't want this to get any bigger. Ms. Jenkins looked at her seriously. This is big, Maya. But if you stay silent, he could do this to someone else. Those words stuck in Maya's heart. But before she could answer, the bell rang. She excused herself and went back to class, her mind in turmoil. That afternoon, as Sarah was setting up tables at the diner, 2 black sedans pulled up in front of their apartment building. Neighbors immediately looked on, curious. From the first car, a tall man in a gray suit stepped out. His face was stern, his steps confident. "Sarah," he asked politely. Sarah turned, shocked. "Yes. I am. Who are you?" "I'm Robert. Robert Harrison." Sarah froze. The coffee pot in her hand stopped midair. She stared at the man for a long time, as if looking into the past. "Robert," she whispered, her voice barely trembling. "You're Robert?" The man nodded. There was a long silence between them. Neighbors started whispering. "That looks like a general. Seriously, why is he visiting Sarah's apartment?" Robert took a deep breath. "I heard about what happened to your daughter, Sarah." "About Maya?" Sarah immediately looked down, nervous. "Yes, sir. I just found out from the neighbors, too. I'm so scared. My daughter won't even leave her room." "Is she home?" "Yes. But she doesn't know you're here." Robert looked at the door of the small apartment. His eyes were soft but full of regret. "It's time she knew, Sarah. I don't want to hide from my own daughter anymore." Maya, hearing a strange voice from inside the apartment, came out slowly. As soon as her eyes met the man's, she froze. His face was unfamiliar, yet there was something achingly familiar. Like a faint shadow from a childhood she had almost forgotten. "You're Maya, aren't you?" Robert asked gently. "Why? Yes, sir. But who are you?" Sarah looked at them both, holding back tears. "Maya. He's your father." The word echoed in Maya's head. "What? My father, honey. Brigadier General Robert Harrison." Maya took a step back, disbelieving. "All this time? Mom, you said Dad was gone." Sarah's tears fell. "I just wanted you to have a peaceful life. We separated because of circumstances, not because he didn't love you." Maya looked at them both with a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, and fear. Robert stepped closer. His voice was gentle but firm. "I know I was wrong, Maya. I was absent. But I promise you, I will not let anyone touch my daughter again." Maya looked down, tears starting to fall. "So, all of this is true?" Robert nodded. "You are my blood, Maya. And now, it's time for your father to ensure justice is done." That night, General Harrison called the Peterborough Chief of Police directly. His voice was flat but cold. "I want Constable Davies suspended and investigated by professional standards. Tonight. That video is enough initial evidence. I don't want excuses." The chief, receiving the call, could only answer quickly, "Yes, General. Right away." Meanwhile, in his small rental house, Constable Davies was agitated. He had just watched the news. Arrogant officer from viral video suspended, pending internal investigation. He kicked a small coffee table in front of him, angry. Who the hell filmed that? His wife, trying to put their child to bed, was terrified. "Frank, please stop swearing." "Shut up," he barked. Before he could sit down, a car pulled up outside. 3 officers from professional standards knocked on the door. Constable Davies? Yeah, that's me. We're from professional standards. You're required to come to the station for an inquiry. Davies panicked. An inquiry? What for? I didn't do anything wrong. We're just following orders, sir. He looked at their faces, one by one, then fell silent. He knew an order like this didn't come from just anyone. Damn it, he muttered, but he could do nothing as he was escorted out, though not handcuffed, in front of his own family. The next day, the news of Constable Davies's suspension spread quickly. Every local news outlet covered it. Disgraced officer investigated for misconduct and harassment of a minor. At school, Maya's friends began to look at her differently. No longer with just curiosity but with respect. Ms. Jenkins gently patted her shoulder. You are so strong, Maya. Now everyone knows the truth. Maya just smiled faintly. In her heart, she was still struggling to accept the reality of her father. But she knew her life would never be the same. That evening, General Harrison picked up Maya and her mother. He took them to a quiet restaurant near the waterfront. The atmosphere was warm, though awkward at first. I know it will take time for you to forgive me, Robert said slowly. But I promise, I will always be here from now on. Sarah looked at him. Robert, don't just make promises in front of her. I don't want her to be hurt again. Robert looked at her seriously. I swear it. And I will make sure that officer is held fully accountable. Maya looked at her father. I don't want revenge, Dad. I just want people like him to not be able to humiliate people just because they can. Robert smiled slightly. Those are the words of a brave woman. You truly are my daughter. A few days later, the internal disciplinary hearing took place. Constable Davies sat with his head bowed. In front of him, a panel of senior officers stared at him sharply. The evidence is clear, one of the investigators said. Your actions violated the code of conduct, were an abuse of your authority, and involved the harassment of a civilian, furthermore, a minor. Davies tried to defend himself. I was just enforcing the rules, sir. Enforcing the rules does not include threats, intimidation, and physical contact, one of the panel members snapped. Finally, the decision was read. Constable Davies was officially dismissed from the police service with cause. He could only hang his head. Karma had arrived faster than he could have imagined. On the same day, Maya stood on the balcony of her new home, a modest townhouse her father had arranged for them. The afternoon breeze was gentle. She looked at the sky, remembering the day she was humiliated on that street. Now, everything was different. She was no longer just an ordinary high school student. She had become a symbol of courage for many. Sometimes the truth comes through pain, she said softly, smiling faintly. And that pain is what made me strong. From a distance, Brigadier General Harrison stood watching his daughter. There was pride in his eyes. The pride of a father who had finally found his daughter again after years of loss. It had been 3 weeks since the hearing that delivered the verdict for Constable Davies. The city of Peterborough was returning to normal, but the name Maya Harrison was still being discussed. Every time she walked down the school hallway, her classmates looked at her with admiration. Some teachers praised her courage. But Maya actually felt uncomfortable with all the attention. She just wanted her normal life back. On the school bulletin board, there was a letter from the school board. They were presenting an award to the PCVS student for her courage in the face of injustice. But behind it all, Maya knew the high price she had paid. She had lost her sense of anonymity. She often felt anxious when she saw a police car on the street. And every time she heard a siren, her heart beat faster. One afternoon, Maya sat on the patio of her new home. The house was bigger than their old apartment, but her heart still felt unsettled. She held a warm mug of tea, looking at the small garden her mother had just planted. Sarah came out carrying a small chair and sat beside her. "You've seemed so down, Maya. Are you still thinking about that incident?" Maya sighed. "Not entirely, Mom. It's just everyone talks about me like I'm some kind of hero. But at the time, I was just scared and wanted to go home." Her mother smiled gently. "Courage doesn't mean you aren't afraid, honey. It means you were brave despite being afraid. That's what people admire." Maya looked at her mother's face. There was a calmness there. "Are you angry that I just found out about Dad?" Sarah looked at the evening sky. "I was, once. But when I saw him show up, with so much regret in his eyes, I knew that maybe this was how it was meant to happen. So you would learn where you came from, right when you were strong enough to handle it." Maya was silent. She knew her mother was right. That night, General Harrison came to pick them up. His staff car waited out front with a driver. "Let's go have dinner. I want you to meet someone," he said kindly. Maya was hesitant at first. But Sarah nudged her arm. "Your father is trying, honey. Don't close your heart." They finally agreed to go. The car drove to a simple, family-style restaurant by the river. The atmosphere was modest but warm. Waiting there was a middle-aged woman, Eleanor, Robert's wife, who had never been part of Sarah's life. As soon as she saw Maya, the woman smiled gently. "So this is Maya. You look just like Robert when he was young." Maya was quiet, unsure how to act. Robert made the introduction. "Eleanor knows everything, Maya. There are no more secrets now." Eleanor looked at Sarah with respect. "I apologize if there has been any pain over the years that hasn't healed. But I want you both to know, I do not object to Robert being a father to his daughter. I just want peace for everyone." Sarah looked down, her eyes filling with tears. "Thank you, ma'am. I never asked for anything. Only that my daughter wouldn't suffer." The atmosphere was emotional. Even Maya shed a tear, not of sadness, but of feeling a great weight that had pressed on her family finally begin to lift. A few days later, the principal called Maya to his office. "Maya, there's an invitation from the mayor's office. They'd like you to be a speaker at the Youth and Community Trust event. Would you be willing?" Maya was shocked. "Me? Speak in front of all those people?" "Yes. Your story could be an inspiration to many other students." She was hesitant at first, but after discussing it with her mother and father, she finally agreed. The day arrived. The City Hall auditorium was filled with students, teachers, and local officials. At the podium, Maya stood, trembling, holding the microphone. She looked out at the sea of faces waiting for her story. "My name is Maya Harrison," she began softly. 3 months ago, I was just an ordinary high school student. But one event changed everything." She recounted the incident on the street, not with a tone of revenge but with honesty. About the fear, the shame, and the courage that was born from injustice. "I didn't want to be famous. I just want us to know that the truth sometimes must be fought for, even by ordinary people." The room was silent, and then applause echoed for a long time. Some of the officials were dabbing their eyes. From that day on, Maya's name was no longer just viral. It became a symbol of resistance against the abuse of power. That night at home, Robert sat in the living room, watching a replay of his daughter's speech on the news. He smiled with pride. "You were incredible, Maya. You showed courage without aggression. That's a difficult thing to do. Even for adults." Maya looked at him, her eyes misting over. I just don't want anyone else to go through what I went through, Dad. And you've already made sure of that. Sarah joined them, carrying a plate of warm cookies. Finally, there's laughter in this house again, she said, smiling. For the first time in a long time, they ate together in a happy, peaceful silence. A few weeks later, Maya received a letter from a national foundation. She had been selected as the recipient of the National Youth Inspiration Scholarship to pursue her education at any university of her choice after graduation. She hugged her mother tightly. "Mom, I got the scholarship." Sarah cried tears of joy. "Thank God, honey. The universe always provides." Robert arrived that evening carrying a small bouquet of flowers. "I'm proud of you, Maya. I know your journey isn't over, but you have already conquered your own fear." Maya looked at her father with warmth in her eyes. "Thank you, Dad. I want to keep fighting. Not just for me, but for other people who don't have a voice." But life wasn't always calm. A few weeks later, Maya received an anonymous message on social media. "You've got a lot of nerve, humiliating an officer. Watch your back, smart girl." The message made Maya anxious all over again. She showed it to her father. Robert immediately had his cyber team trace the message. The account was traced to a former colleague of Constable Davies, who had also been implicated in the investigation for similar conduct. Without waiting, Robert reported it to the Central Professional Standards Division. A few days later, the person was detained. "You don't need to be afraid anymore," Robert said, reassuring her. "As long as I'm alive, no one will touch you." Maya looked down. "I'm not afraid, Dad. It's just sometimes this victim label makes me tired. I want to be known for who I am, not for what happened to me." Robert looked at her for a long time, then smiled. "Then write your own story. Let the world know who Maya Harrison really is." The following section corresponds to the inconsistent names at the end of the original text, now aligned with the established Canadian characters. The atmosphere outside the police station that night was tense. All eyes were on Constable Davies as he was escorted out by two officers from Professional Standards, his hands cuffed behind him. Maya stood tall beside her father, wearing her high school hoodie. Her face was clear of makeup, but her gaze was no longer that of an ordinary high school girl. It was the look of someone who had passed through fear and chosen to stand for the truth. Davies had tried to defend himself, his voice trembling with emotion. "I was just doing my job, sir." The kid was resisting. But Brigadier General Harrison cut him off with a stern voice. "Doing your job doesn't mean humiliating citizens, especially a minor. Do you know who that girl you humiliated is? She is my own flesh and blood." Whispers erupted among the officers who were watching. Some looked down in shame, others pretended to be busy. They knew this case wouldn't just disappear. Maya looked at her father. "Dad, don't punish him because of me. Punish him because he was wrong." General Harrison turned, his gaze softening. "You're right, honey. The law is not a tool for revenge. It's a tool for justice." The next day, the news about the corrupt officer who humiliated a high school student was all over social media and television. Many were shocked to learn the girl was a general's daughter. But what made the public admire her more was Maya's humble attitude. She refused long interviews, only saying briefly to reporters, "I'm not special. I just don't want someone like him to treat anyone else like that ever again." Meanwhile, Frank Davies was officially dismissed with cause. As the investigation concluded, they found a long history of him abusing his power on the road. Ironically, a few days after his dismissal, an old dashcam video surfaced online showing Davies extorting a truck driver late at night. The video went viral, and his reputation was completely destroyed. "Karma moves quickly," as Maya's grandmother used to say. Still waters run deep, and sometimes the bottom is full of mud. A few weeks later, Maya returned to school. Her friends greeted her with hugs and relieved smiles. Ms. Jenkins called her into the staff room. Maya, you've passed a major test in your life. Not everyone could be as strong as you. Maya smiled slightly. I just didn't want to be silent, ma'am. If I stayed silent, someone else would have been treated the same way. The teacher patted her shoulder proudly. Keep being that person. But always remember, you don't fight evil with hatred but with courage and integrity. Several months passed. That day, Maya and her father sat by the edge of a small pond near his Ottawa residence. The afternoon sun reflected on the calm water. Dad, Maya said softly. When I was little, you once told me that being strong doesn't mean fighting with your fists, but having the courage to stand up to injustice. I understand what you meant now. General Harrison smiled, looking at his daughter with immense pride. I'm proud of you, Maya. You've become a strong woman. Maya just looked at the sky, which was turning orange. I hope no one else has to experience what I did, Dad. I want to go to law school. I want to help people who don't have the power to speak for themselves. Her father looked at her for a long time, then said, That's a noble goal. The world needs more people like you. Several years later, Maya fulfilled her promise. She graduated from law school and became active in cases involving violence against women and children. The name Maya Harrison became a symbol of courage among students and young activists. Meanwhile, her story continued to be a reminder within police institutions that power without empathy only leads to destruction, and that behind the uniform, behind the badge, a person must still have a heart. In the end, Maya grew into a strong, wise woman. She held no grudges, only a determination to fix the system that had once hurt her. As for Frank Davies, after several years of struggling, he eventually found work as a security guard at a small shopping plaza. He regretted his actions and tried to atone for his mistakes by being kind to others.